And I am back. I am hydrated. I have 4-ish days of food on my back, and I have had a whole heck of a lot of pretty good coffee. I don't usually get up this early unless I'm stealth camping and need to make sure and clear out before anybody might come across me, but oh well, town day. Tragically, I had enough water where I was pretty sure I could have like 1 cup of coffee in the morning after having dinner the night before. But it was really dry last night with the wind going, so I needed more water than I had just to get through the night. So I guess maybe I should have gone down to that creek. Also, hopefully the guy that's bringing me into town knows a coffee shop on the way. So it is still relatively warm out here. I think the weather report was predicting it was going to be around 40 degrees this morning, and I can feel the chill. I still have more cold weather gear than I really need because I knew it was going to go cold at some point. I just didn't know when, and because I was trying to do this as one, continuous thing, I basically started with the 10-degree bag and long johns and everything. So I really could have just stayed at that ski hut at the top and just left early. Would have had the nicety of one less cat hole put out into the universe, but I was just nervous. Anytime I am meeting somebody, I am always really paranoid about running late. I want to be respectful of people's time, especially when they're driving out to meet me. And it worked out. I got to warm back up, do another couple of miles, and basically right at the point where I was wanting a spot, I ended up finding something. It turns out it was actually established. I saw a fire ring just as I was packing up. Honestly, that's usually a negative when I'm looking for sites. I usually look for ones without it because fire rings tend to have trash and other issues around them. I was really hoping for 1 cup of coffee this morning. Just the warm liquid, even if it was decaf, having something warm inside me helps me get going in the morning. For all the stuff I do tend to be a bit of a wimp when it comes to cold. I can tolerate it, I just don't like tolerating it. And I noticed when I first went out, like the first year or so I was backpacking, I just didn't care. I was running around in like shorts and everything else. Maybe I owned some long johns, but I was barely using them. And then same thing happened with scuba diving. The longer I did it, the more sensitive to cold I became. Oh man, if I just come a little bit further, I would be 1 coffee happier right now. Oh well. It was also really nice to get to sleep with the fly off last night. I generally like doing that. I just don't that often because I've had too many occurrences of freak rainstorms coming out of nowhere. And also it's the same issue you have with cowboy camping where there might be a heavy dew out of nowhere and then all of a sudden your sleeping bag's wet and everything. And I just don't want to have to screw around with needing to sit there and dry everything out. So the goal today, I have now less than a mile down to the road. Somebody's gonna give me a ride into Manchester, hopefully coffee, hot food, etc. And then I need to buy about 3 days of food and stock up on a couple of things, fuel, etc. And once I have that will get me down to, I think it was north of Adams, where there is a grocery store right on the trail. And then I will get fresh stuff since that hasn't been an option for most of this. And every now and then, I usually don't go big into food just because people get a little crazy about that. But as far as I will get like rants in my email because, they don't think I should be eating things that are the color orange or, this, that, or the other. And the thing a lot of people miss, at least with me and Jen, is we eat pretty healthy out here. I mean, our staple diet is beans, rice, and peanut butter. We are eating bars and things, but I have seen people making videos on the AT where they're eating like frosting and Pop-Tarts on day 3, saying they need all the calories. And folks like that don't know what they're doing or talking about. Never mind empty calories, etc. But, day 3, you don't have hiker hunger. Hiker hunger hits at like 500 to 800 miles, where all of a sudden you were just ravenous. Before that, you're exercising and just a little more hungry. But we will eat occasional candies and things like that, but I would say our diet is not super junk food heavy. Most of the time when I switch heavier to things like, Triscuits, or there's these spicy crackers that we really like, it's because I'm either craving like salty foods or that flavor, or it's just trying to maintain things that I can get down. Years ago, had a friend who went really heavily into like backpacker's pantry stuff and making more complicated meals, and that was great, but you just gotta remember, when I'm out here all the time, sustainability due to like cost, effort, and being able to stomach things day after day is a much bigger issue than when I did shorter stuff. Meaning I can burn out on pretty much anything. I mean, I ate a lot of north sides because they were easy, they were cheap, they were everywhere. And now I like choke when I have to eat those. The beans and rice have been variable enough, mostly because we can adjust the flavor a bit with cheese and various types of taco seasoning. But even then, I mean, nothing is completely evergreen. I can get sick of pretty much everything, so I try and adjust around. I do need to find another easy sort of meal beyond the beans and rice, ideally, because I do keep having to go back to like mashed potatoes and north sides. But again, I don't have access to a dehydrator or anything like that. We do not have a home. We have a storage locker and a very mobile lifestyle, living out of boxes when we're not on trail. So stuff I'm looking for, like I think very highly of Skirka in general, but a lot of his food stuff, like he does a version of the rice and beans that adds a bunch of extra crap that I am not going to bother with. Trying to add oil and things like that. I need simple, and I need things I can grab off the shelf at your average general store, supermarket, and triage in the parking lot and get going. And a lot of the, oh, look at this cool Instagrammy backpacker meal that I made sort of things I've seen don't really fulfill that. You have to, they're fine if you're going to go do a couple of days here and there and you can prep them at home. I guess you could do them if you were exhaustively sending boxes everywhere. We do lean a little heavier on sending boxes sometimes, but we don't plan it all out from the get-go. I mean, generally we are sending boxes at need about 2 weeks ahead of time. So, yeah. And I mean, when Jen is prepping these boxes, she is teaching high school, and then she is sleeping in campgrounds at night. So she is prepping these out of the back of her car in a campground. Doesn't have access to the, niceties of a kitchen. The other big thing a lot of people don't realize when through hiking, like especially on the AT, where it might seem like I'm here off in the woods, but civilization is in every direction. You can always hear traffic. You're always seeing day hikers. There is a, not really a joke, but kind of, about there is no wilderness on the AT. Even the 100-mile wilderness isn't really a wilderness. You're still seeing houses and people and food drops and people coming in and out of hostels back there. But with constant town access, I do get to eat, real food. And normally that last one, I didn't really have an opportunity because it was an Irish pub and it was limited. But that's when I'm going for like salad, veggies, and all the things that I'm not able to get as much when I'm out here. Granted, one of my major food groups on a lot of these hikes has been Domino's, just because they're everywhere. They are affordable, when it comes to so-so pizza. And they deliver, and they do it really fast. So it's kind of the perfect hotel meal when I don't want to step outside the door, which is most of the time when I get a hotel. This was where I was originally going to aim for, because I thought I would be lower on water than I was. I almost stayed up top because I figured I had enough water to get through the night. Never can tell though. Like I said, that breeze came up and it just was super dry, and I was craving water most of the night. I was really grateful when I woke up and realized it wasn't like 11 o'clock and I drank most of my water. the reason why I stopped when I could have had all the water I wanted just a little bit further is there are often campsites close to the road. However, they are campsites close to the road. You have to worry about people showing up and partying sometime. Far Out is filled with comments about stuff like that. And of course, traffic noise. Granted, that is an old roadbed. That would have worked. Kind of similar to folks bunch you up at the shelters. I noticed when I was doing the AT, a lot of people seem to always try and stay roadside. And my theory, based on talking to a few, is it's like a comfort thing. People who are worried about being off in the scary wilderness where bears are. The irony of that being, of course, like problematic bears tend to be bears that have been exposed to people. So all the problematic bear incidents I ran across were basically near towns or in shelters, including several shelters that had been closed down because of problematic bears. Hence one of the reasons why I like dispersed sites, even when there are cases like yesterday where there was another shelter I could have stayed at. As expected, lots of camping options down here by the road, but it is pretty loud with all the high-speed truck traffic. I do carry loop earplugs, and obviously I have my AirPods, and I sleep in those if I have to, but I just prefer to be further away from roads whenever possible. I am enjoying the fact my pack feels like it weighs almost nothing with no food and no water. Also, the amount of toilet paper in these bushes is just depressing. As expected, I am early, about a half hour early, but at least the person won't have to wait for me. And yeah, when I was doing more civilized sort of things, I would carry a trash bag pretty often. And I am back. I am hydrated. I have 4-ish days of food on my back, and I have had a whole heck of a lot of pretty good coffee. And now I'm going to try very hard not to get run over again. That was so much fun. I was sitting there swapping stories for a couple hours at a coffee shop. Breakfast, burrito, and coffee, plus socialization. Everything I could want out of this morning. And I am back out here a little before 11 o'clock. The time I spent yesterday charging a battery really helped. I topped up my phone because I don't know that I'm going to be able to recharge for a while. I also don't know how many miles I'm going to make a day. I think things are going to go quicker down here, but again, because of the weather and things like the resupplies, I don't really have a sense for what I can manage. And it kind of seems like the moment I go, oh, okay, I can do 20 miles a day, and I depend on that, that is when all of a sudden I get some sort of a blister, rash, etc. And next thing you know, I am having a heck of a time making my miles. There is stress, there are planned B, C's, and D's, and there is extra money being spent on town stays. But I was pretty much able to get my wish list as far as things at the store. The only bummer is the only filters available were Sawyer minis. So I've got a double set of minis with me instead of my normal Sawyer squeeze. Normally I would have just said, oh, that's okay, and stuck with mine, but mine is pretty impinged. But hey, even if it clogs up quick, 2 of them should be enough to get me down to Dalton. Unsurprisingly, the store did not have the dried bean flakes. Walmarts have carried a brand, Mexicali Rose, but your average stores, it's just a crapshoot. I had a little better luck when I was on the CDT than other areas. I always check, but the only thing I can ever find are these wet bean bags, which are too heavy due to the water content and not enough calories. So I have one bean bag from Jen that has beans and rice and seasoning. I have one really yummy looking backpacker meal, person that met me brought, and then I have 2 days worth of mashed potatoes, which Jen loves those. I will eat them, but usually after one day I am mashed potatoed out for a while. This was also the first time since I have come to Vermont that I was able to find Tillamook. I've been doing Cabot. I always look for extra sharp cheddar. Basically, the sharper the cheddar, the better. Out west, it's always Tillamook. Out here, Cabot, and the white versus the yellow, obviously. This time, just to compare, since I've been eating the Cabot for a while, the Vermont Cabot extra sharp, I got extra sharp yellow Tillamook. I do feel like the yellow, when it's warm, stays a little solider. That's always the thing. Like, I used to always really like pepper jack, but when you're backpacking, you want the harder the cheese, the better. Like, the best is if you can get the old big wheels of cheese that they used to cut for you at butchers and things, because out in the heat, things kind of mush and get kind of disgusting after a couple of days. I'd kind of been hoping to get a deli sandwich to pack in for today, but honestly, I think I hit the food amounts pretty well. And all of the deli sandwiches they had both looked kind of, snake, marginal gas station-y, and were in bulky plastic. So I just double checked, and I am 54 miles from the end of the long trail at the Massachusetts border. And then, of course, I do have another 30 miles or so to get down to North Adams and then Dalton for my dismount to get a rental car to then drive all the way down to Tennessee and jump on the Benton MacKay Trail. I was just told that between North Adams and Dalton is actually Mount Greylock, which is kind of cool because that is one of those landmarks along the way that kind of stuck out. We got up there either in the dark or very near dark, and I remember that memorial tower with the big light on top, so it'll be kind of cool to see that again. As much as last night and this morning was a little bit of a bummer due to the water situation. It's nothing like 4 cups of coffee while talking the entire time to really put a spring in my step. My mileage has been going up while I'd say my effort level has been going down. There were days on the north end where the 10-ish miles I did just kicked the ever-living crap out of me. And now, like, the climbs yesterday felt not quite like nothing, but pretty dang easy. Like I've been saying, it's more the footing versus the gain, going up a couple of thousand feet, even at altitude, out on the PCT, do not bother me as much as the steep step ups and step downs. So at least for the remainder of this trail, I'm kind of switching my estimated mileage numbers to 15 a day. Seems like that's reasonable based on the last couple of days. I do have the occasional bad day where I'm struggling a little more, that day after Killington. I have had so much go wrong this year. I have a very low confidence in myself. Because otherwise, I would just be, 15, that should be pretty easy. I can exceed that with a little bit of effort. I did also check weather down the hill. No rain in the forecast, at least for now, that hurricane has turned. However, there is a frost warning today and tomorrow, so sleep with the filters time, and then it warms up again. And I am really not sure how Georgia is going to change that. So you can see the difference between the mini and the micro. Kind of have to make do with what I can do, but you can see why this would be slower than this. The mini and the micro were kind of aimed at the weight weenie crowd, but honestly, everybody I know that does long trails has given up on these and going to these. The only people I know that use these regularly are day hiker sorts who don't have to filter as much water. At least for the moment, though, it probably does have a little higher flow than my existing Sawyer. The bogs and a couple other questionable sources I had to do along the way have kind of done a number on that, and back flushing only does so much. Seems like I'm losing more and more of my shaded canopy here. Guess I'm gonna have to start putting sunscreen on again. I've already been wearing my sunglasses the last couple of days for a while there. It's deep enough in the green, didn't need them. I'm also kind of dragging today, which is unfortunate. High spirits leaving the road, but I can feel I just don't have as much strength in my legs. That always makes me a little nervous because I'm not sure if it's medical, mental. I mean, my pack is a little bit heavier with all the food, but not that much. But, oh well, not in too much of a hurry, and even if I have an off day, I should still be over 10 miles, I think. Oh, there's Manchester Center again. So it is 5 o'clock and I've come about 12 miles today. I am kind of struggling, not sure what's up. Town stop was really happy, but ever since it's been kind of just hard to get into the flow. So Stratton Mountain is the next 3-mile climb. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to go up and over that. I would have enough time, theoretically, but I think I'm going to fill up just in case I don't feel like making it all the way up and over. The lesson of the last week or so seems to be fill up earlier than you think, because you can't always rely on the comments and water sources. So worst case, I'm carrying a few extra pounds for an extra hour or two. Okay, this is going to be my evening fill up. It's surprisingly chilly when I'm not moving. So this new Seanock that Jen sent me is actually my old one, which is 3 liters. I originally had a 2. I had a lot of 2s because I've broken them over the years. And then I went to a 3 thinking, well, that'll mean less times running over to the water source to fill up. And that was true. Like right now I'm actually appreciating it because I'm having to like jump around on rocks more to get to whatever source. But at least at the time I switched back to a 2 because it's kind of long and unwieldy having a 3. But we'll see. Like I said, if I was to get another one right now and I had my choice, I would get a 3. Okay, filled up / weighed down with enough water for the night. It has been noticeably colder today. It's one of those days where anytime I stop, I have to either cut it short or layer up pretty quickly. It is the 1st of October, and it sure does feel strongly of fall. And it's possible that's partially what has me feeling off today, or just coming out of town and going back to kind of a more isolated existence. But generally, when signs of fall start to show up, that's kind of a signal of the end of the season. But we'll see. I usually figure any given day, if I'm feeling bad, just put my head down, get to the tent at the end of the day, and tomorrow's a completely different day with its own complications. I guess I made a good call filling up. Just ran into two older gentlemen northbound on the AT. First thing they asked me when they saw me was there good water ahead? I told them yes, and to ignore far out, because there are people there who do not understand what tannins are. The comments are assuming that the brownness in the water is due to there being beaver bogs in the area. And don't get me wrong, beavers do create, bacteria in the water, and you absolutely want to filter the ever-living crap out of it. See the ye old beaver fever. But that is just brown from tannins soaking out of the wood. You have to deal with it a lot in the aquarium hobby when you put wood in as a decoration. One of those guys was from Lewiston, so we were chatting since I mentioned I'd come through on the ECT. It's funny how many people who live in Florida are just not into hiking down there, complaining about the whole having to get your feet wet thing. Can't sweat the small stuff. It's funny, feels like the later it gets, the harder it is to make myself stop. So it is 6:40 and I am going to lose light pretty quick. So found this quasi-established site. It is kind of typical in that it looks good until you get closer, and then you're like, not quite flat, and there are rocks and things scattered around. Maybe if I just go right along here in between the rocks. And that should work. Unfortunately, it seems like I missed another really, really nice sunset because no views. Could go up to the top. There is a ski resort up there and a fire tower, but this works. I am ready to get buttoned up because it is supposed to be cold. At least some weather reports were saying hard frost could get down as low as 20. Anyway, I'm putting all the water filters inside my sleeping bag. Home sweet home.